We can see it.
All right, great. All right, so when it comes time to show the video, what I'll likely have to do is stop this and then share to another window, and then we can come back to it. So easily worked around. So thank you for the patience and for having me on. My name is Kyle Corbin. I am the Director of State Program Development for SafeinHome. And SafeinHome is a company that does remote support services. And I'll talk a little more in depth about that, but we provide staffing, and we provide that staffing just like DSPs in the home. The only difference is that our staff they're there via technology. So we utilize a tablet. They can do anything that in-home staff can do except provide physical touch. So we'll go on a little more about that. There's a QR code there for anyone that wants to scan it, and Paul, I'll share this slide deck with you too if you would like to post it. But we will soldier on. So what is the difference between remote support and assistive technology? So those are terms that are thrown around a lot, and there's a lot of crossover between the two. And depending on where you're at, what state you're talking to, who you're talking to within the state, there may be some confusion over the differences between one or the other. So assistive technology is a piece of equipment. It is something that is going to help you be more independent throughout your day. So the items that Harold was showing, those are assistive technology pieces. It is a very specific item that gets you through a specific task. We all use them every day. We have our cell phones, we drive our cars, there's traffic lights. Pretty much every aspect of everything that you do throughout the day ties into some piece of assistive technology. And that's kind of where that difference is, where remote support is a service that's tied into and utilizes assistive technology to provide that service. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, when I say it's a service, I mean that in the most basic sense of the word. It is, as I said, staffing. And that staffing is designed around a specific solution for each and every person. So it's not a box of equipment that's dropped off at your house. It's not a prepackaged system that everyone utilizes the same thing. It's a very individualized, person-centered solution designed around what's important to and what's important for each and every individual. So if we were to come in to start remote supports with someone, the first thing that we would do would be to have our account executive sit down with the team, with the individual, everyone that's important to that person, and work through the plan of what would make sense, what again are the hopes and dreams and the future for this individual, what's important to them, what's important for them. And then we would design a solution around that, picking different pieces of technology and then incorporating service delivery, the remote supports into that. So what might that look like? Well, if we were designing a service for me and we knew that I had a seizure disorder, and so falls were a concern and an issue, and that needed to be addressed for safety purposes. And we knew that in the past I had let people into the home that had done me some harm, maybe stolen some things from me. So we want to address that issue as well. And we also know that I want to be more independent in the kitchen, and I'd like to cook more things on my own and be able to pack my own lunch and follow recipes. So now we've identified a thing that's important to me and two things that are important for me. So what might that look like as we build that solution up? Well, if I'm mobile and about the house, but we need to make sure that if I have a seizure and I have a fall that someone's checking on me, we could utilize motion sensors throughout different doorways and hallways that would track the time between movements. And so if I leave my bedroom, but nothing triggers the next sensor outside the hall, that may notify staff that potentially there's been an event, a fall. And again, this is all going to be based on the plan, but maybe they reach out to me via my cell phone or through the tablet and just, hey, Kyle, is everything okay? Have you had a fall? Or, is everything all right? Yep, everything's great. I'm, adjusting a picture. Or I did have a fall. Can you send help? Or if there's no answer at all, maybe the next step in the plan says, okay, call 911. And we can utilize that same technology throughout the house to really identify and address those needs. Mentioned that everyone's there are no strangers. Everyone's a friend I just haven't met yet. So maybe we utilize a ring camera on the front door. We have an approved list of visitors that we know are safe for me and are okay to stop by. And maybe there's one or two people in my life that don't necessarily have my best interests at heart. And if they happen to show up at my door, staff are notified, they see who is there, and then they can address that situation again as what's spelled out into the plan. So maybe it's just calling me and saying, hey, Kyle, your mom's at the door, and we know that relationship isn't the best. What would you like us to do? Or maybe it's a situation where we have someone who has a restraining order against them, and they show up, and the immediate phone call is to the police to address that issue as they've come up. But again, all of that's going to be in the plan and decided long before those incidents actually occur. Talked about wanting to be more independent in the kitchen. Well, what might that look like? Well, we could put sensors on the stove that would shut off if I forget to turn the burner off, or if I leave it on too long. We could put sensors on the sink. So if I, again, forget to turn it off, it looks like it's about to flood, it hits a certain level, it automatically shuts off. If I get confused on what's the next step on the recipe that I'm working on, or maybe I need to know what a substitute is. If I have baking powder, but I need baking soda, is that an okay substitute? I can push the button on my tablet, talk directly to my staff and ask them the question, does this make sense? Is this something that I can do? And they can walk through that process with me and help me get to where I need to be. So all of that is done through very supportive means. Our staff, and I'll talk about them a little more, they're trained in ACT technology and techniques, which is accepted commitment therapy. It's all very non-directive. And we're available 24/7, day in, day out, at the touch of a button. And that can be either through scheduled times. We're going to monitor during certain periods of time for that individual when perhaps staff isn't there and they're looking for more independence. Or it can be scheduled calls. I don't need a whole lot of service, but I do need someone to check in with me at 6 o'clock when I get home from work to make sure that I remember to take my meds and that I start dinner. And oh yeah, by the way, it's Thursday night and I've got to take the trash out tonight. Hey, that, make sure that you don't forget that that's on the calendar for today. So those are all possibilities. It also works the other way as well. Say it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear a noise. I can reach out and touch the button, connect to staff, and say, hey, I heard someone. Is there someone in my house? I heard a noise. We could check sensors, see if there's any movement that's occurred. Nope, everything looks good. You're perfectly safe. And be that reassurance for that individual. So how does it all work together? What does it look like? So I mentioned sensors. They all work together. They all talk to each other. We have about 95 different pieces of technology that all talk to each other and work together to build a solution for each person. Now that by no means that you're going to have 95 pieces of technology in your home. Those are just the amount of items that we have to choose from to, again, build that individual solution for each person. And all of those are really going to be dependent on what are the needs for that person, going back to what's important for, and how do we augment the existing service plan to help someone be more independent and provide a way for them to really shine and show how they can be successful. So what are some of the possible solutions? I've hit on some of these, but I like to throw this slide in here just so I don't forget anything. Medication management's a great one. We have a few different devices. We have just as simple as a pill box that you can pick up at the pharmacy that you just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We can incorporate that. We also have some that get a little more complicated where they can be programmable and they will only release the proper pills at the proper time and day for that person to take. We could also go as far as working with that individual on scheduled time so we can observe them take their pills if that is needed for the person. Talked about overnight support already, visitor safety, already hit on kitchen safety. Elopement's one we see a lot of. I get a lot of questions about, well, how do you prevent elopement? Well, my experience, and I forgot to talk about myself a little bit as I was working through the problems. So I've been in the field for 24 years. I've been doing this with SafeinHome for about 2.5. Prior to that, I worked for the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, helped them design and drive their technology services forward and become a technology first state. Before that, I ran a state developmental center. It was a 98-bed facility for folks. We shut that down, moved those folks out into the community. So we needed a lot of creative solutions for that, because those are some people that had some difficult needs to serve. Before that, I ran a provider agency for a number of years. So I kind of have a unique perspective on the different aspects of service delivery, and I get the viewpoint of both the state side, the provider side, and now working on the remote support side. So when I say in my experience about elopement, there's some experience there. And people elope for basically two reasons. They're either running to something or they're running away from something. And often that what they're running away from is that difficult interaction with staff. And I worked as a case manager for a number of years, and I can say without a doubt, one of the biggest issues that people had was the inability to get along with staff people in their home for whatever reason. And that's not to say anything bad about staff. We love our staff. Staff are wonderful. They do a great job. But it can be difficult having, as you all know, someone in your home all the time working with you, telling you what to do. I kind of equate it to family, right? On the holidays, we love our family. We love when our family comes over. But boy, we're kind of happy when our family leaves too, right? Like we're ready for that independence of not having someone right there in our space at all times. So when we look at that, when I say that they're running from something, when we are able to remove that element of staff and give people that independence and give them the opportunity to just kind of do their own thing without having that staff there, we have seen a significant reduction in elopement. Now, that is not to say that it never happens. And so what are the solutions? What do they look like? Well, we're not locking doors. We're not keeping people in. But what we can do is, going back to that Ring camera, we can see what direction they're going in, and we can then notify next people on the call tree. So again, back to the plan. What's the expectation for service for this individual if they happen to leave the house? And oftentimes, again, back to my provider agency days, well, what do we do? Okay, well, we're going to have staff follow the individual. Great. They're safe in the community. We know they're not going to run out in front of cars. We know that they can navigate, but we need to make sure that someone's keeping track of them so they don't get turned around. So the problem we would run into with I would run into with that often is, here I have a guy who's 25 years old, very athletic, moves really quickly. And when he decides to go, he goes. Well, the staff that I had in the home didn't always meet that same physical model. So by the time they were able to get to outside and take a look, he was already gone. So utilizing the camera, the Ring camera, we at least have an idea of where he's headed, and then that would then notify our staff. And then what's the next steps? So maybe it's call him and see, hey, is everything okay? Where are you headed? Oh, I'm just going to the park. I needed some time. Cool. That's great. In your plan, it says that you have free time. You're able to do this. Enjoy. Maybe it's okay if this happens and the next notification is mom, and we call them. So all of that's going to be built in there. And all of those solutions are really going to be around what that person's need is. But what we have seen is that there is a significant reduction in elopement for folks that choose to use remote support. And that's been a huge relief for a lot of families. Seizure management's another one. We have seizure detection devices. They can detect significant seizures. There's some new technology coming out in ways to kind of detect based on body temperature and things, some of the lesser seizures. Really, the sky's the limit there on those medical things as to what we can do and what we will be able to do in the future. It's really kind of exciting. So, going to try this video. I'll try it here. We'll see if we have sound. I'm going to bet that there's not, and if not, then I'm going to switch it over to the other one that I have queued up. So, Paul, if you hear the sound, give me a thumbs up, and if not, we'll do a quick switch. All right, I'm not seeing a thumbs up, so that means I don't have any sound. Okay, no problem. So we're going to stop sharing this one. Blame Google. Let's switch this. And this should do it. All right, fingers crossed. All right, are we seeing a screen that says, yep, all right, we're seeing it. So here comes the volume. We're going to hope.
I have SafeinHome and I love them. They're really good and they make me feel good when I talk to them. I would recommend it to anybody. I used to feel sick all the time. My anxiety issues and somewhat depressed because I didn't have anybody to like help me or talk to me, and if I had a problem I used to have to call the ambulance. But since I've had SafeinHome, I've been calling them if I need them. People who talk to me from SafeinHome are nice people. None of them are mean to me. They always say, well, if you need something you can call us. Like anytime, we're open 24/7. Even if it'd be midnight, you could call us.
My name is Alex Cosma. I am the remote support training manager here at SafeinHome.
Our staff is trained by a licensed psychologist in acceptance and commitment training methodologies. Our staff knows how to handle this gracefully, and major behavioral challenges or behavioral manifestations like calling emergency medical services frequently, having someone who's committed and who's listening and who knows how to de-escalate somebody or, work them down from an emotional high. That's part of what we do.
Hi, Susie.
Hi. I have a little anxiety right now. I heard some ambulance go by my house. It made me nervous.
Just try to relax. Music really helps a lot,
It does. Sometimes I listen to Michael Jackson.
Oh, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I like Michael Jackson.
One of my favorites, too.
I'm just glad that I talked to you guys because I just feel a heck of a lot better when I talk to somebody, because then it makes me relax. It makes me feel better.
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to cut this one a little short just because we're running out of time, and I want to be very much cognizant of that and not run over. So I'm going to switch back to the presentation. And, all right, I'm going to share one more time. Okay, so talked a little bit about our staff. One thing I really want to touch on here is this is a HIPAA controlled environment. We are badge in, badge out, 24/7. We have supervisors on site that are ensuring that staff are having the interactions they're expected to. Our staff are trained the same as DSPs in the home. We're in 18 states throughout the country. We serve over 3,000 people. So our staff are trained to the standards of every single state because they might be receiving a call from any state. So often, again, they can do anything that staff in the home can do, except for physical touch. Every interaction gets a note, a support note. Back to my provider days, one of the things that would frustrate me is someone would have, I go in after an 8-hour shift to check the logbook and see what someone said, and I would get a note that said, "Had a good day." That's great. I'm glad they had a good day, but what does that mean? What does that look like? What occurred during that day to make it a good day? So anytime there's an interaction with an individual with a piece of equipment, our staff are logging that. We've been able to identify some trends and patterns through that. If someone's up through the night and we see that they're not sleeping because they're up 15, 16 times, we can see someone's in and out of the bathroom multiple times. Maybe that's a precursor to diabetes. So there's been a number of things like that that have been identified and have been beneficial through support notes. So real quick, what's it look like? You put in a consultation for someone. Our staff sits down with the team. As I mentioned, they'll put a proposal together. Here's the amount of service that makes sense. Here's the items of technology. Then it's submitted for approval. Once it's approved, it's installed. We do our own installations. We utilize our own field service staff because we know how they're trained. We know that they know our equipment. And then once all that's in place, service is able to start. So here's another QR code. This has a link to multiple videos that we have, including the one that I had to cut short a little bit there. But just wanted to say thank you. I know I'm out of time. And Paul, I appreciate the having us on here, and glad we were able to work through and get the sound working. So that was a good thing.
Thank you, Kyle. I'll make sure I send out your contact information with our follow-up email. I'll include you on that so folks can reach out directly if they've got follow-up questions for you.
Wonderful. Yes, please. Any questions, I'd be happy. Usually I try to save a little time, but just ran a little short today with all the maneuvering.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will do it again next Thursday. Speaker topic to be announced. And I hope you all have a great Labor Day weekend. Enjoy. If you've got some extra time, please enjoy it. Take care.